All right, let's dive into a wild story today. We're talking about a powerful king, a prophet with a huge problem, and an animal that does something, well, something absolutely amazing. It's a tale all about greed, divine intervention, and some very, very unexpected blessings.
So let me just start with a question. Have you ever heard of a talking donkey? Because this story right here has one of the most famous talking animals of all time. And it's not just some random gimmick. This donkey plays a key role in stopping a total disaster. Let's find out how.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Meet King Balak of Moab. His kingdom is right on the border of where the Israelites are camped. Now, he's been watching them, he's seen them conquer other powerful nations, and honestly, he is terrified. He feels like an ox just watching a massive herd move in to eat up all the grass in the field.
He knew going to war was pretty much hopeless against whatever mysterious power was protecting these people. So, he decided to fight them a different way, not with swords, but with sorcery. His goal was simple: curse them. The only problem was, he was going up against a much, much higher authority.
So what does he do? He sends a whole delegation of his most important elders on a super long journey, all the way over mountains and deserts. Their mission? To hire a guy named Balaam, a famous prophet who had this incredible reputation. He whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed.
Now here's where things get really interesting. We got to talk about Balaam's choice. See, Balaam was once a good man, a true prophet of God. He knew God was protecting Israel, but he had a weakness, a pretty serious fatal flaw that was about to be put to the ultimate test.
The first time the king's messenger showed up, God's message to Balaam couldn't have been clearer. In the middle of the night, he said, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." But that promise of treasure and fame, man, it was just too tempting. His greed was sparked, and his heart was totally divided. I mean, it's a tough spot to be in, right? So Balaam, he tries to find a loophole. The king sends even more important princes with even better offers. And even though Balaam already knows God's will, he tells them, "Hey, stick around for the night. Let me ask God again," as if the creator of the universe could somehow be talked into changing his mind. So because Balaam was so dead set on going, God allowed it. But he made it absolutely clear that Balaam would not be in control. This wasn't some kind of blessing on his trip. No, this was a test and a serious warning that he was heading down a very dangerous path. Okay, let's get to the most famous part of this entire story. Balaam saddles up his donkey and heads off, super eager to get his big reward. But on the road to Moab, things get really, really weird.
So here's where the prophet, the guy who claims to have the vision of the Almighty, is shown to be completely blind. First, just like you see in step 1, the donkey spots an angel with a drawn sword and swerves into a field. An angry Balaam hits the poor animal. Then, they're in a narrow path, and the angel appears again. The donkey presses up against a wall, crushing Balaam's foot. Now he's furious and hits her a second time. And finally, in a path so narrow there's nowhere to go, the donkey just lies down. Balaam is absolutely enraged, and he has no idea that his loyal animal has just tried to save his life 3 different times.
And this is the turning point. God opened the donkey's mouth, and it spoke. And in his rage, Balaam actually starts arguing back, telling the animal he would have killed it if he had a sword. Can you believe that? The man on his way to curse an entire nation couldn't even control the animal he was riding. It's only then that Balaam's eyes are finally opened. He sees this terrifying angel who tells him, "If she hadn't turned from me, I would have killed you and saved her." It turns out the prophet was the one who was blind all along, and his loyal donkey had just saved his life. So Balaam finally makes it to Moab. King Balak gives him this huge welcome, but oh boy, the real surprise for the king is just about to start. He takes Balaam up to a high place so he can look down on the Israelite camp and, get to work. Balaam builds 7 altars, he makes his sacrifices, and he opens his mouth to speak the curse that Balak paid for. But a powerful blessing comes out instead. He describes a people blessed by God and even wishes for himself an end as righteous as theirs. You can just imagine, Balak was stunned. So a frustrated King Balak thinks, maybe it's the view, the location's wrong. He takes Balaam to a new spot, hoping for a different result. Again, Balaam makes his offerings, and again, God's power forces him to speak words of blessing, declaring that God's blessing on Israel is irreversible.
So for a third and final time, Balak tries a new location. This time, Balaam doesn't even pretend to do any sorcery. The Spirit of God just comes over him, and he looks at the camp and speaks this beautiful prophecy about Israel's strength, their prosperity, and their divine protection.
And that was the last straw. King Balak's plan was a total, spectacular failure. He angrily sends Balaam home in disgrace, without a single piece of treasure, and he yells at him, blaming God for keeping the prophet from his reward.
But hold on, because the story doesn't end there. Balaam goes home, totally disappointed and out of favor. But his greed, that one cherished sin that God's Spirit had been holding back, well, now it took complete control, and it would lead to his ultimate downfall.
He couldn't get paid for a magical curse, so he came up with a new, diabolical strategy. He went back to Moab and advised King Balak on how to get the Israelites separated from God's protection. The plan? Tempt them into sin and idolatry, and their own actions would bring about their ruin.
1. Just one cherished sin. For Balaam, it was covetousness, pure and simple greed. This single fault, this intense desire for riches and honor, it poisoned his entire character. It made him choose earthly wealth over his divine calling, and in the end, it led to his destruction.
You know, his story bears this striking resemblance to another really famous one, the story of Judas. Both men tried to serve both God and money. Both were given great light and special privileges, but a single, cherished sin led both of them to apostasy and ruin.
And Balaam's terrible plan? It actually worked for a while, and thousands of Israelites fell under God's judgment. But justice didn't let the tempter escape. In a later war, Balaam was killed. He had wished for the death of the righteous, but because he didn't choose to live a righteous life, his destiny was sealed with the enemies of God.
And that leaves us with a final thought from this ancient story that feels so relevant today. Balaam's journey really shows the devastating outcome of prioritizing worldly gain over integrity. So it makes you ask the question, what do you think is truly more valuable? Thanks for listening.